Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Dave Zangaro will be along in a little bit to talk all things Eagles. Yes, Jason Kelce. Yes, taking over for Jason Kelce. Cam Jurgens, not Dave Zangaro. Although he would also be an undersized center. Anyway, Dave, I'm going to ask him the question. The bigger question mark, Tyler Steen at right guard or Cam Jurgens at center, being that Cam Jurgens has to take over for a, Hall of Fame center. Some might have some questions there regarding Cam Jurgens. We'll get into that conversation. We'll get into the conversation of the franchise tags that went out yesterday. Antoine Winfield. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. I know a lot of people had their hopes up for the Eagles, but not happening. Also, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We'll get into that with Dave about a possible reunion with the Eagles being in the market to get a safety to patrol that secondary, along with Reed Blankenship and the combine. If there is one player in particular that jumped out to Dave Zangaro for the Philadelphia Eagles, here's a little bit of a spoiler. It is a cornerback. It is a defensive back. It hasn't gone well for the Eagles when drafting defensive backs, really, the early goings of the draft, especially in the first round. The last time it happened actually was Lito Shepherd. And then they were supposed to get the steal of the draft in Sidney Brown. And that unfortunately didn't happen. It was not the steal of the draft, to say the least. But yeah, we'll get into all that and more with Dave Zangaro when he joins us a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to start it off. Look, we got some Phillies conversation to get into with Zach Wheeler throwing his first game, getting his first action of spring training in Clearwater, Florida yesterday, including adding a new pitch to the arsenal. We'll get into that. Tyrese Maxey under evaluation for a concussion. He had some concussion symptoms, sat out last night's loss to the Brooklyn Nets. We'll get into that as well. But I want to start it off with this. Have you seen this photo? For the people on the podcast, this is a photo you may have seen on social media yesterday, even though social media was down for a little bit yesterday. This is Jason Kelce getting a smooch on his cheek from a gentleman in a backwards hat. They seem to both be enjoying a beverage. This seems to be some kind of event, gala, if you will. I don't know. But I thought, this is interesting. Is this this a nice fan? There's a fan getting a smooch in on Jason Kelce. What a guy, Jason Kelce. I don't know. A family member, maybe. I don't know. So who is this guy? So finally, there was this big post that was put up. And I was like, I could read about, okay, what's going on here? I'm sure it's something great that Jason Kelce did. Oh my goodness gracious. It was amazing. If you haven't read the story yet, if you don't know who this person is, Joe Opella is a trainer for the Philadelphia Eagles. And all throughout Jason Kelce's career, he wrapped his ankles, he wrapped his hands, they became close friends. And Joe was telling the story on his post in social media about how he got diagnosed with cancer. And he had to miss Jason Kelce's last game in Tampa against the Bucs. So he didn't get to tape Jason Kelce's hands, didn't get to tape his ankles. So Jason Kelce, as it would turn out, followed suit with their friendship and volunteered his ankles to be taped one last time by trainer Joe Opella, who had to miss that last game due to a chemo treatment. So before Jason Kelce's last press conference, his retirement speech, his epic retirement speech, he sat in the trainer's room with his dear friend and longtime trainer and allowed him to tape his ankles for a press conference. And not just for a press conference, for what was an epic retirement speech. Joe goes on to talk about in the story about how they were at each other's weddings to help define the closeness and the bond between these two people. How Jason Kelce would call Joe just to check up on him, see how he was doing with his treatments. Jason Kelce would volunteer his shore house if Joe just needed to get away, get his mind off things, get in a new setting, and just relax. That's the kind of person Jason Kelce was. They would crash on each other's sofas some years ago. That's the kind of person Jason Kelce was. Those stories, just when I thought I was going to be done welling up over Jason Kelce and the career and the memories he created in Philadelphia, Joe Appella goes out there and puts one more story out there that goes, all right, I'm not going to do it. Not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But it's one of those things where, I don't know if you guys are like me. I think everyone's with our attention spans nowadays. You're scrolling through your phone, you see this picture, and you go, oh, okay, I'll read about this, whatever this is. I'll keep reading. I don't know, keep scrolling, look for another story, whatever. And then finally, somebody posted the actual story next to it. I went, oh, I can read. Okay, I'll read this right now. And it's a long story. And, big post, So I, open it up. I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here. And I read the whole thing, and it's just a beautiful tribute. It's a beautiful tribute from someone that knew Jason Kelce really well on a personal level and knew what kind of person he was, obviously off the field. And you'll hear that phrase. You'll continue to hear that phrase whenever we talk about Jason Kelce for forever. On the field, Hall of Fame guy, but Hall of Fame guy off the Hall of Fame talent on the field, Hall of Fame guy off the field. I got a call yesterday. I won't say from who, but someone else in the media that was just like, dude, I can't believe the amount of emotion I'm experiencing just over this. I cannot believe it. And it's like, he's like, are you welling up? I was like, I got teary-eyed. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm an emotional man. I come from an emotional people. I'm not a yeah, it seemed to get, I saw my old friend John Ritchie, as a matter of fact, tearing up on WIP about it and just be like, I can't explain why. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it got a lot of us. It's one of those things that will really, really feel weird when training camp or OTAs start and Jason Kelce's not there. That will feel really weird. Really weird. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that story. If you haven't seen that story already, it's a thing of beauty. It's an absolute thing of beauty. Dave Zangaro, when he comes on with us, will help us with the transition away from Jason Kelce for the Eagles, an X's and O's factor, not necessarily an emotional factor. Dave will give us his thoughts as well on the retirement speech. One thing that jumped out to Dave is something that certainly jumped out to me is when Jason Kelce's agent said, you have no idea how great this is. You're going to be a perfect fit for the city of Philadelphia. Truer words have never been spoken. That certainly jumped out to Dave, so Dave will talk about that. Also, as a guy, now Dave, interesting. He covered Jason Kelce and the Eagles for 2 years. Then he had a great job opportunity in Houston. Went to Houston and then covered the Texans for a couple of years, then came back for Jason Kelce. And one of the things Dave highlights is just how great Jason Kelce was after the age of 30. Like, got better. It got better after the age of 30. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to peak at like 26, 27, 28, 29. Then 30, it's all supposed to crash and burn. It didn't happen like that for Jason Kelce. And a lot of that was because of the dedication he had to his craft, the work ethic he has, and, of course, the tutelage of Stoutland University didn't hurt either. So Dave will be talking about that coming up in a second. Let's move on. So Sixers lost last night to the Brooklyn Nets. Ben Simmons still not playing for the Brooklyn Nets. And here's what went down. Sixers were up 8 points with about 9 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Then blew it. Kelly Oubre had 30 points in this game. Tobias Harris, another night, he didn't really have it for the Sixers. Turnovers galore, unfortunately, in that fourth quarter as well, led to the Brooklyn Nets beating the Tyrese Maxey less 76ers. Now, that's what happened, but it's not the lead. The lead is Tyrese Maxey. Okay. All right. I think we're all used to the idea, unfortunately used to the idea of Joel Embiid missing a long period of time in basketball. That's load management, whether it's an injury, whether it's a questionable one that's going to play in the playoffs, gastroenteritis, torn meniscus, broken face, whatever. We're just used to something happening with Joel Embiid, but not Tyrese Maxey, not our beloved not Tyrese Maxey. So in the win in Dallas against the Mavericks, Tyrese Maxey fell to the ground, I believe in the third quarter, hit his head on a player's shin, left the game, came back. And then he did not make the trip to Brooklyn. He stayed back in Philadelphia to be under evaluation for concussion-like symptoms. Don't know if he'll be back on the hardwood when the Sixers take on the Memphis Grizzlies, but I certainly hope that he will. But this story now has my attention. I thought when he came back against the Mavs, oh, fine, great, wonderful, everything's fine. And then missing last night's game certainly has caught me a little off guard. Sixers can absolutely not afford, in a time they're trying to avoid the play-in tournament, Sixers can certainly not afford to miss Tyrese Maxey for any period of time from now to the end of the season, especially with Joel Embiid being back. Now, I've made my prediction. I think Joel Embiid plays again this season. I think the trade deadline moves have certainly led you to believe that. The positive news that we got in that Mavs game from the ESPN broadcast saying that Joel Embiid is lifting 100% of the weight that he lifted before the injury. He has resumed basketball activities, although light workload. He has resumed those basketball activities. So I can only hope that that does lead to, if you follow the bouncing ball, at least him coming back maybe for the final 2 weeks of the season, get a couple of games under his belt, get into shape a little bit, get back into game shape, and then unleash fury, unleash hell when he gets into the postseason. And I certainly hope that Tyrese Maxey, I don't see this lingering. So if he came back still in that Mavs game, I don't see this as being anything that's going to knock him out for a long period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and hold out hope and with good confidence say that Tyrese Maxey is going to be back in the near future. This won't be a long sustained injury. But I can understand not having Joel Embiid because we've been through it before. But having Tyrese Maxey miss games is worrisome. It's very much troublesome. And I would very much like Tyrese Maxey to be playing in these basketball games because one of the things you can watch, as I've said, even throughout the offseason and this entire season, this season, 82 games, is just entertainment. It's just entertainment. The season for me, the Sixers have now trained us to think, all right, let me know when the playoffs start. Yes, we'll be following, we'll be watching, we'll be entertained. But when the playoffs start, that's when you really start sitting on the edge of your seat and seeing how much further this team can go. Without Joel Embiid, the focus shifts to the maturation process of Tyrese Maxey, which has been pretty damn fantastic to watch throughout this year, especially with Joel Embiid being out. He's averaging 27.5 points per game as opposed to 25.5 points per game that he had with Joel Embiid in the lineup. So you're seeing him take that step forward. And then the most general brush you could paint, which is still significant, the fact that he made an all-star team this year. Pretty special. So I would say the maturation process has been pretty fun to watch throughout this year. Harris has been, well, more consistently not good, especially in the month of February where he averaged about 15 points per game. Had those 2-game stretch where, 28, 30 points. That's nice. You can see that a little bit more from Tobias Harris. And then a little bit of a wall yesterday against the Nets. That's not as fun to watch as Tyrese Maxey progressing. Kelly Oubre can go off, fine. Kyle Lowry can hit a shot from damn near the half court with time ticking off the shot clock as he did in the second quarter last night. I'll take it. But good Lord, can't watch that for a long period of time. So I hope when they do face the Memphis Grizzlies, they got Tyrese Maxey back in the fold. One more non-football thing before we get to Dave Zangaro. Zach Wheeler pitched in spring training yesterday. It was the first time he pitched since signing his 3-year extension, $126 million. Good God, man. I didn't realize that Zach Wheeler had been working on a splitter. Now, he pitched 2 innings yesterday, 30 pitches, gave up 1 run, gave up 2 hits. But I didn't realize he had been working on a splitter. And I was reading the story by Corey Simon, also NBC Sports Philadelphia, and Corey Simon put out this great story about how Zach Wheeler was throwing BP. And he said when he was working on his splitter, he was trying to slow his arm motion down to throw that splitter. And Kyle Schwarber said, this is a dead giveaway. It's your This is a dead giveaway. This is telegraphing. This is tipping your pitch. You're slowing your arm speed down. And Zach Wheeler's like, oh, okay, thanks. So he started throwing a little bit harder. One result when he threw it twice of the 30 pitches he threw yesterday. One result, a swing and a miss. Nice. Second result, backstop. Okay, so not so great. Still a work in progress. This is what spring training is for. But one of the interesting things I took out of the piece from Zach Wheeler addressing the media yesterday after the game was not only was he working on it, not only was Kyle Schwarber helping him not tip the pitch when he wanted to throw it, he was saying that this is something that he hopes puts him over the top to be a Cy Young winner in the upcoming season. Go for the gold, baby! I know the individual accolades. Sometimes people scoff at that. It should be all about the team winning. You're right. It should be all about the team winning. But if he's a Cy Young Award winner, that kind of helps the team win. It's like people that would get pissed off at Joel Embiid for wanting to win Defensive Player of the Year or MVP. It's not about that. It's about yeah, but if he's that good, then that means you're going to win. That means you're winning games. Obviously not in the post. I'd like him to be a postseason MVP. That'd be nice too. That means you're winning games in the postseason. Yeah, I have no problem with Zach Wheeler saying that. I think we all want that. And by the way, if you're going to be making the highest average annual salary ever, for a pitcher, then yeah, I would say make it as worth it as possible, and a Cy Young Award would do it. So I got to thinking that we're thinking about Zach Wheeler and throwing the pitches, and we're thinking about Aaron Nola getting re-signed, right? I mean, thinking about Ranger Suarez and guys like Taijuan Walker and Christopher Sanchez maturing and all that stuff. So you got Wheeler inked, you got Nola inked, Ranger Suarez pennies on the dollar, pennies. You know what I'm saying? And then you want to add Blake Snell to this already aside. Okay. All right. So it got me thinking. All right. The last time the Phillies had the 4 aces, or even close to this would be a 3 ace situation. And then we see how Ranger Suarez does throughout the season. All that stuff. That's interesting. The last time they had all these arms, it didn't work out so great. It wasn't great. It was a bad ending. It was a horrible ending, as a matter of fact. So what can happen? They go out and they get Blake Snell. And they add him in this rotation. It's not about outslugging teams anymore, which it's been. Look, Wheeler and Nola, Wheeler's been far more consistent. He's been far more consistent than Aaron Nola, as we know. But if those guys can click it into high gear, they're dominant in 1-2. Bring in Blake Snell. You have Ranger Suarez in the mix. Taijuan Walker. It's still insane that Taijuan Walker won so many games as he did last season. And then also have a guy like Christopher Sanchez that can throw pretty damn well for you. A guy that the Phillies also have a lot of confidence in. Another guy that's also been working on pitches in the offseason. This could be a pretty special year. And I got high hopes for this Phillies season. Shout out to Harry the K. I think this lineup is going to be awesome. I'm looking at last year versus this year. To have Bryce Harper be able to start out not only in the lineup, but also at first base, you already have a better first baseman than you did in Rhys Hoskins. You have the outfield help in Whit Merrifield as well as the infield help. You're going to be able to spell Kyle Schwarber in left field. Brandon Marshall will be back. Your outfield is going to be pretty set. I'm just the arms alone should be enough to get you excited about this season. And then the addition of Blake Snell, the possible addition of Blake Snell, getting pretty excited. And I don't see Trey Turner struggling nearly as much as he did through the first 4 months of the season for the upcoming year as he did last year. So I am excited as all get out when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies and what they could be bringing to the table in the not-too-distant future, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to our friend Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia, let me tell you about the great people at the Game Time app. Want to go to the game? Want to go to the concert? Want to go to the big event? Want to go to the comedy show? Get your tickets by using the Game Time app. That's right, the Game Time app. Create an account on the Game Time app. Download it to your phone. Create an account. Use promo code Farzy. And you get $20 off your first purchase at the Game Time app. How about that? How about the Game Time guarantee? You find tickets in the same section or row for less money on another ticketing site, another ticketing app. They'll get you back at 110% of the difference. That's the Game Time guarantee. Plus, last-minute ticket deals, flash ticket deals, even ticket deals for an hour after the event starts. So you might miss the opening acts. Whatever. You get mega huge Kajunga savings on the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app to your phone. Use promo code Farzy when you create an account and get $20 off your first purchase. Without further ado, let's jump into a little bit of free agency. Obviously, Jason Kelce's retirement speech, as well as the combine and what the Eagles could be doing for the rest of this offseason, as well as the latest on Fletcher Cox with Dave Zangaro. And joining us right now, the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, our friend from NBC Sports Philadelphia, sort of fresh off the combine, more fresh off covering Jason Kelce's retirement speech. So we'll get into it all with our friend Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philly. What's going on there, Dave?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. First, I got to say, you wrote a great piece on Jason Kelce's retirement. What stuck out to you, you wrote about in the early goings of your piece, was really, has an agent ever been more right about telling a 6th-round pick, hey, you're going to fit in great in Philadelphia? Because that was a grand slam of a call there by the agent.
Yeah, Jason Bernstein, who's been Kelce's agent his entire career, told him you're going to fit in really well in this city. And I don't know anyone who's ever fit in better. He's talked about this before, Jason Kelce, and I think it really came up in 2021 when we were kind of dealing with the Ben Simmons fallout, because it was such a, at that point it was a big talking point in town of what does it take to be loved in this city? And Kelce's stance has always been pretty much the same. It's not that hard. Just, You have to care about it, and you have to know that the people in the stands care about it too. And sometimes they're going to voice their displeasure, and you got to like recognize it. And it's funny because it just came like we talked about this recently because Darius Slay and Steven Nelson were talking about it. And Steven Nelson got a lot of flack for saying he had to leave, he wasn't built for it, which I don't think everyone is built for it. I don't fault him for that. But if you are, like, you can be set up for life here. You know, we've seen that with guys, a lot of guys who end up living here after their career. Like Kelce said, you can become a demigod in this city. It's kind of true. The way we treat our athletes, the ones that care and the ones who always care, like, yeah, they reach a status here that not many athletes reach in other cities. And Kelce's kind of in a league of his own with that. I never thought we'd see an athlete as universally loved as Brian Dawkins. He's always kind of been the standard in the last 30, 40 years, but I think Kelce topped him even.
We've never seen this before. It dawned on me when Jason, and we'll go back to the speech in a second, but it dawned on me when Jason Kelce was done. Hold on a second here. A Hall of Fame Super Bowl champion. We don't know what that looks like in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, he's the first. So I kind of put it like this. Like, we could talk about Fletcher Cox and whether or not he is going to retire, what the word is on the street with him, but a Hall of Fame Super Bowl champion. I don't even know how we deal with that other than in maybe 4 or 5 years we go to Canton and we just drink the place under the table, basically, is how that's going to go.
Yeah, it's going to be fun when he gets inducted. And the kind of crazy thing is it took a while for him to reach that level. You know, he talked about it during his retirement speech. He oversold it a little bit. I don't think everyone wanted him out of town in 2016, but they did draft Isaac Seumalo, who at the time we thought, okay, yeah, they're drafting his replacement. Kelce didn't play his best season in 16. It probably helped him that Isaac wasn't really ready at that point, but he comes back in 17 and he's incredible. And in 6 of his final 7 years, he's a first-team All-Pro. He makes the Hall of Fame with that stretch. It's unbelievable. He would have had a good career. You would have said good 6th-round pick. They liked him in the locker room, but for him to turn himself into a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, Hall of Famer, champion, maybe one of the best centers of all time, maybe like he's in the conversation. Certainly the best center of his generation. It's remarkable. And I mean, he's retiring, but he's doing it on his own terms. I mean, he has good football left in him. He played at all-pro level this year. Even if he wasn't at his peak, he was still really, really good. And if he wanted to play a couple more seasons, he could keep piling on accolades and earn another $25 million, $30 million. But I give him credit for walking away because he feels like it's time, and he's earned that.
Absolutely. Just overall, I mean, when it came to the speech, what did you know going into it? What were you expecting? And overall, what other than his agent just hitting it out of the park there, what was one of your major takeaways from the whole thing?
Yeah, I had a pretty good feeling he would nail it. I had a pretty good feeling he'd be emotional before he said a word, and I got both of those. We were actually talking about it, like, how far into the speech does he get before crying? Someone asked me that, and I said, he's not going to get into the speech before. What are you talking about? He's going to cry the entire time through it. And he did, but once he got a little steam rolling, he was able to plow through some of it. And as you'd expect, there were some moments that got him a little more choked up than others. I give him credit. I mean, first off, it was incredibly written, and you've given speeches before. I've given speeches before. We've talked in public forums. To do it from a phone is really hard.
It's honestly, just on that note, I find it to be next to impossible. Like, if you go up there with like on your phone, I have to have a hard copy, man. I can't go up there with any digital device, let alone a phone.
I'll have to ask him about it one day. Like, did the phone not freeze?
Yeah, right.
Was he just like so sure that the face recognition would work that he could glance down and get it to open up again? I'd be like, oh, I got typed in the passcode too many times. I've tried. I'm crying. I don't look the same anymore. I thought the delivery was was emotional. The writing itself was phenomenal. I actually tweeted out a passage from it that it caught me when he said it, but like you read it back and you're like, this is beautiful. Where he just talks about the locker room and how it's such a blending and a melting pot of different people from different places and different ideologies. And it's cool and it's fun. Since I've tweeted that, I've had a bunch of ex-military get a hold of it and kind of liken it to that. I've had people in the corporate world kind of say that, people from classroom settings. So it's not like I think it's unique in the NFL, certainly, because you're just trying to find the best at certain things, and it's going to attract a wide variety of people. But there are other places where that's true, and I found it really cool. And military, I think, is one of them where I think there is certainly a blending there, and that's been cool to see people relate to it in different ways. But yeah, the whole thing together I was very impressed by it. I thought he pulled it off, which is a tough thing to do, is to talk by yourself for 41 minutes, to know that thousands of eyes are on you, millions of eyes are on you, and you're just there by yourself. And it's tough to watch in the crowd too, because you're like, man, like, I hope he gets through this. You can't help him, aside from PR throwing him a towel. There's nothing you can do. You just got to let him get through it. And he pulled it off, because of course he did.
Yeah. And one of the things I was waiting for, I wasn't betting on it to happen, but one of the things that crossed my mind was, at one point, he's just going to throw the phone away and be like, that's all I got, guys. Any questions? So on that note, like, did you expect?
We did know, so we knew going in that there would be no questions.
Okay. That I was going to ask. Okay.
That.
Okay.
And honestly, after 41 minutes, I don't know if we would have had any questions. Like,
right.
What else? He just let his heart out for
It would have been a first in Philadelphia history. Any questions? Nope. Thanks.
And it was such a Kelce way to end it. He finishes this eloquent statement. He goes, that's all I got, and gets up.
It was perfect.
Every hand, walks out of the room.
I am in no way petitioning that there should have been questions or anything like that. I just want to make that clear. It was perfect. But I was just curious if you guys were told that ahead of time. So you were.
Yeah, okay. We knew that he wasn't going to take questions.
Look, obviously we got the combine a little bit here, but where do the Eagles go from here? The center position, obviously we could look at Cam Jurgens. If I had to break it down, I don't know how you feel, but I was talking on the show yesterday about how I think the bigger question mark is more Tyler Steen at the right guard spot than Cam Jurgens necessarily taking over as a center. How do you see this offensive line coming together in the post-Kelce era?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Cam Jurgens was okay at right guard. I don't think he was great. I thought there were some rough moments, but I'm also not going to judge him as a center by what he did at right guard. They didn't draft him to play right guard. They played him there because they had a spot open, and he was in year 2, and they figured, well, let's put him there. He's a center. They drafted him to play center, and he has enormous shoes to fill. The chances that he ends up being Jason Kelce are slim to none, right? We know that. So I think we have to temper our expectations. But the reason they drafted him as high as they did, and it was high, it was a 2nd-round pick, was because they saw a lot of the same physical tools they saw in Kelce all those years ago. And the fun thing about Cam Jurgens is, given his athletic profile, he would not have been a 2nd-round pick had Jason Kelce not existed. Right? If there hadn't been this template of a smaller, undersized center with these extreme athletic gifts, the ability to get to the second level, the understanding of leverage, like if Jason Kelce doesn't exist, Cam Jurgens isn't a 2nd-round pick. And that's kind of the cool thing. And I know Kelce's always downplayed the role he had in scouting him, but he did watch him. He did like him. And Kelce will tell you it was more about the Eagles telling him, hey, we're going to draft your replacement. We want you to be cool with this. But not only was Kelce cool with it, really like helped out as much as he could. And I know that, but he's always done that. He even did that with Isaac Seumalo, who was drafted in what should have been Kelce's prime and ended up being Kelce's prime to replace him. And he was all on board with helping Isaac as a rookie, as a young player. And I've talked to Jason before about how it's not just Jason. Like, I think Fletcher Cox has really done this. Brandon Graham has really done this, but they understand that a part of their legacy, they want to be bringing along the guys after them, which I think is really cool. And I think it's not necessary. I don't, it's not what they're getting paid to do, but I think it fosters the right culture in an organization. And when you have all the veterans doing that, I think it's a really good thing.
Certainly. Speaking of guys that weren't drafted to be guards, Tyler Steen, was he notified at the draft that he was now a guard? Because basically his guy has been a tackle. By the way, you're a guard now. So how is that
happens though?
Sure.
There's a bunch of tackles in college that teams look at them and go, probably a better guard. And that's okay. Like I think in a pinch he probably could play tackle. And that was what really stood out to me in his rookie training camp was he looked more comfortable at tackle than he did at guard. Once they realized, okay, this is obviously Cam Jurgens' job. He's not going to lose it. They started getting Steen reps at left tackle, and he looked way more natural. So and it did raise an eyebrow a little bit when he couldn't wrestle away that backup job from Sua Opeta when Jurgens was missing. They felt more comfortable with the veteran instead of putting Steen in there. Now he did get that 1 star, but it was in a game where Opeta was banged up. We're in the I'm in the weeds now a little bit, but Opeta and Jack Driscoll both free agents. 2 of your top backup offensive linemen. You need backup offensive linemen. There's nothing that can sink a season quicker than injuries on the offensive line. We've seen that here before. If you don't have backups who can play, it's trouble. So curious to see if those guys get offers elsewhere. Curious to see if the Eagles are able to bring one or both of them back. And, I don't know if they're going to spend money in free agency on an interior lineman, but if they look at Tyler Steen and think he's not ready to be a starter on a team we think can compete right now, they have to address it. Now, the way you might address it, it's funny you talked about college tackles playing guard. I think there's a scenario where they draft Lane Johnson's eventual replacement, but say, hey, you're going to compete for right guard as a rookie, and then you get some competition between that player, whoever it is, and Tyler Steen. I could see an outcome like that.
Gotcha. When you do get into the weeds there when it comes to the draft, you were just out there in Indianapolis for the combine. Beautiful, tropical, always Indianapolis.
It was nice, actually. It was nice in the beginning. It was like 65 degrees, and then by the time we left, it was like 30 and blustery.
Gotcha. I know you love this stuff, especially when it comes to the draft and the combine and all that. Any names jumped out than most or more, a little bit more than everybody else? Who were you looking at in particular? Who caught your eye in Indianapolis?
Yeah, one of the guys I really liked going into the draft was Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo. And then he ran really well, and he's probably not going to be there at 22. But, crazier things have happened. I think a lot of the mock drafts have the Eagles taking a cornerback, which maybe is not realistic when you look at their history. They haven't done it since 2002, Lito Shepherd. But I do think the value does line up there for them this year. And I think it's in a position where I look at free agency. It's not a very good crop. It's, the 2 best corners on the free agent market, Jalen Johnson and L'Jarius Sneed, both got franchise tags, so they're off. And then after that, you have like some older players, some injured players. You're going to have to overspend. I don't love it. So you go into the season, you have Darius Slay, who you still feel good about, even though he's old. Like he could run last year. I don't think James Bradbury is going to be on the team. I know what Howie Roseman said, but
he said nothing. And people made a big deal of that, Dave. He said nothing. He's under our plan. Okay, sure. He's under contract. Thanks.
Yeah, I watched the way he played last year, and
So do they eat the money? How does that work?
Yeah.
Holy Stromboli.
It's not great, but it was a mistake. They shouldn't have paid him the money.
I agree.
There was definitely risk going into a season paying 2 corners over 30. And hopefully they learned their lesson there. But you can't get rid of both of them, and Slay played well. So,
all right. I agree. I want to run a couple more names by here. First off, what are you hearing about Fletcher Cox? I'm going to go back to that real quick. Do you think Fletcher Cox is done?
I get that sense. There's smoke there for a reason.
Sure. Okay.
Talking to Jordan Davis at Locker Cleanout Day was very eye-opening. Davis talked about Fletch like he was already gone, and Fletcher's standing in the corner of the room, but his locker was cleaned out.
Okay.
And I think Fletch has more good football in him if he wants to play.
I could see him go ring shopping. I could see him go not re-signing with the Eagles going into the season, and then just like, oh, look who's doing really well. I think I'll jump. Oh, the Eagles are good again.
Maybe
I'll
I
jump
could
in
also
there.
see him doing a formal goodbye.
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
We'll see how that plays out. I don't think anything's in stone there, but yeah, there's a lot of smoke around him walking away, and I think that's notable.
Gotcha. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's another name that's been tied to the Eagles' mutual interest. You hearing the same thing? Can you expect it? What's the deal there?
I wouldn't say expect it. It's a good crop of free agent safeties. He's one of them. And the really attractive thing about this crop of free agent safeties is they're all pretty. They're all pretty young. He's kind of the elder statesman of that younger group. He's 26, but I mean, Xavier McKinney didn't get franchise tag. He's now kind of the top guy. Antoine Winfield did, so he's not available. But Cameron Curl, Geno Stone, Julian Blackman, like there are a bunch of good safeties who are 24, 25, 26 years old. And now there are a lot of teams looking for safeties. So as deep as it looks, I think those guys are going to get snatched up. But I think the Eagles are in a position to spend money at safety this offseason. I think they will. I think they're going to find a guy on a multi-year deal. Could it be CJ? Possibly. You want to make sure all the fences are mended and everything's good there because it didn't end well. I like CJ. I got along with CJ. He's a little bit of a wild card, but I also think he has an energy that was good. I thought it was good for this team, and they would have been much better off had he re-signed instead of them, him kind of not taking the deal, walking away, then the Eagles taking that money and signing James Bradbury. I think they obviously would have been much better off had they been able to come to a deal with CJ.
I only have to ask you about this because I mentioned it earlier in the show. There was a report that wasn't ruling out the Eagles in the Saquon Barkley sweepstakes. I went ahead and ruled it out. Are you doing the same thing?
It doesn't make sense to me from their perspective.
I was hoping you'd tell me I was wrong, but yeah.
No, I mean,
it's not happening. It's not happening.
It doesn't. It would completely buck the trend of everything they've done with running backs for a decade.
Mm.
Good player.
Yeah. I think he's very good.
Really good player, but is he still a transcendent talent? Really, I don't think he is because you can't rely on him because of the injuries. Yeah, I have a hard time buying that one.
I agree. I agree.
Look, I think they'd be better off waiting to see if DeAndre Swift doesn't get that deal somewhere else. And if he doesn't, then you say, all right, DeAndre, you go test your market. Let us know. We want a chance here. I'd almost feel better about that. And I'm not comparing those two as players. Saquon's a better player, but look how they've used
I agree.
the resources at that position. I don't think it passes the test there.
I was looking at the report and I just went, that's cute. That's like the thought I had. I was like, oh, that'll get a couple of clicks for them. Good for them. Yeah. Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia, Eagle Eye podcast as well. Make sure you check him out. And Ruben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia, doing a fantastic job as per usual. Great to have you back in Philly after your time in Indianapolis. Any off-season trips, Dave? Where are we headed? Where are we going?
I don't have anything planned yet. I have to figure it out. Yeah, I want to do some kind of trip. I feel like I've just been behind on planning. And now the agency's about to start. I'm going to get more behind.
Damn it. All right. So much for the Instagram pics of you like in Fiji or something. I don't know. Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philly. Dave, thanks so much, brother.
Sure, man. Take care.
Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Always great catching up with my man, Dave. Yeah, Dave, Dave's funny. Like, I'll just like in the off season be, scrolling through Instagram, whatever. And then there's like Dave holding an alligator. Like, where the hell are you? It's like, oh, New Orleans. Oh, okay. Anyway, the Saquon Barkley stuff I did not mention earlier in the show. I meant to mention earlier in the show. Patrick Leonard, who's actually, I think, a great writer for the New York Daily News. He quoted sources. So the story's been picked up by everybody, pretty much. But he cited sources that are supposedly interested on Saquon Barkley. The Eagles were one of them. That screamed to me. The Ravens are another team as well. That screamed to me, agent for Saquon Barkley, putting it out there. Just as a, hey, Giants, you still want to negotiate a deal? Well, you don't want to let it go to the Eagles. Even without Jason Kelce, that's still going to be a pretty damn good offensive line. Probably the best the best offensive line that Saquon Barkley's ever run behind. You don't want to do that, do you, Giants? That's what it screamed to me. For everyone else that picked it up like it actually happened, I was like, oh, that's cute. That will get clicks for you. Congratulations. But to me, the original report, if you read it from Patrick Leonard, the original report was just citing the sources, baby. Just citing the sources. To me, that screamed of the agent just trying to make the Giants a little jealous, maybe. Anyway, my thanks again to Dave Zangaro. Make sure you guys read all his stuff on NBC Sports Philadelphia and, of course, listen to the Eagle Eye podcast. Let me tell you about MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. That's MyBookie.ag. You want to bet on all the action. Want to bet on a little bit of basketball, a little baseball, a little football when it comes up. A little hockey. You can do it all at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. Just download the app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy. You get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus. And MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. If betting on the world of sports ain't your thing, you know what? You can also bet on the world of television. Ooh. How's this episode end? Who ends up with who? You're going to do it all at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. So take advantage of all they're offering at MyBookie, MyBookie.ag. Use promo code Farzy, create an account, get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus at MyBookie, MyBookie.ag. And finally, thanks to our friends at Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Look at all the amazing inventory Brett has to offer at Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Before we get to the chat check, I did look up Xavier McKinney because I was like, I know he's young. 24 years old now, be 25 when the season starts, but I just wanted to make sure of that. So I go to his Wikipedia, and just a fun little factoid for you here. Who did Xavier McKinney play for most recently? Did you say the New York Giants? You would be wrong. According to Wikipedia, Xavier McKinney, born August 9th, 1999, a 19 guy, sweet, is American football safety who plays for the Wong Dong Chicken Nuggets of the National Football League. He did play his college football at Alabama. Somebody got to his Wikipedia. The Wong Dong Chicken Nuggets. I just saw that. Also, while we were running that interview with Dave, just one last thing. As I was saying before we went to the Dave interview, I was talking about the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, wouldn't you know it? Buster Olney of ESPN also feels confident in the Philadelphia Phillies. I was telling you right before we went to the interview, I feel good about the Phils. Buster Olney literally just put this out. You see it down there, 6:37 this morning. World Series pick from here. Phillies over the Yankees. Phillies are a very driven team after squandering a great shot last October when they were the best team. An improved defense, a healthy Harper, and an ownership / front office committed to adding whatever is needed during the season. Buster Olney from the top rope, ladies and gentlemen. You love to see it. You love to see it. Let's get into our chat check and see how you want to be. I'm with you, man. The good vibes are happening when it comes to the Phils. Daniel, what's going on? Yo, to you as well. Sean Kilrain, good morning. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Dev, morning, Farzy. Jurgens will be fine, I think. I think they done a comp with Steen at right guard. Maybe. Look, here's the only thing that concerns me. I think Jurgens will be fine in the physical things a center needs to do. What will be interesting to me is that for a long time, you would have Jalen Hurts, or not for a long time, but Jalen Hurts had Jason Kelce right in front of him, a guy he could trust when it came to, shifting protection a little bit, making a call, and all that. Now he's got to trust Cam Jurgens. To me, that'll be the more difficult aspect of it. Let's see how that works. You could have Jalen Hurts trust a Hall of Fame center rather easily. Now he's got to trust a guy who's going to be essentially a rookie at center. Now, look, he got 1 year under his belt as a starter at right guard this year. I get it, but not at center. It would be like when we talked about Jalen Hurts, his second year as a starter. You know what I mean? Well, it was his third year in the league. Well, this is going to be Cam Jurgens' first year as a starter at the center position, taking over for a damn legend. And not just a legend, but one of the greatest to ever do it, if not the greatest to ever do it. So that's going to be tough. Those are huge shoes to fill from a locker room standpoint, an ability standpoint, and a what's between the ears standpoint. So that's going to be very difficult for Cam Jurgens. That's why when I look at question marks, I can understand why people would still have questions about Cam Jurgens. You've never seen him. You haven't seen him do it before. You've only seen him play the right guard spot. He played right guard well. Not great. Not all pro. Not Pro Bowl. He played well. Not his natural position. He's a center. So him going to that spot makes me think he'll be better than just good. Play well. I think he'll play very well at the center position. The mental aspect of it is what is really the only question mark for me when it comes to Cam Jurgens and whether or not he'll be able to help with the awful blitz protection the Eagles had last year, especially at the end of the season. And whether or not Jalen Hurts will trust him when he's shifting protection. So we'll look at that. But when it comes to the physical ability and everything else, Tyler Steen, to me, is the far bigger question mark than Cam Jurgens, if that is who the Eagles are going to go with the right guard spot when the season starts. And all signs point to that's exactly what they're going to do. What else do we have? Deb, you have another thing? Jurgens would be fine at center, hand-picked by Kelce himself. Right guard will be a competition. Competition, I can see that absolutely happening. Sean Kilrain. All right, so Sean Kilrain is referencing the story that we talked about earlier here with Joe Opella, the Eagles trainer, who taped Jason Kelce's hands and ankles throughout his career and missed his last game with the Bucs because Joe Opella, the trainer, was going through chemo treatments to fight cancer. And Sean is saying he just read the story. Kelce is that friend. Every guy needs a stand-up dude. I have this feeling that we are nowhere near hearing the end of Jason Kelce tributes. Nowhere near it. I was going to say this for the morning rush, but I'll get into it now. Jason Kelce beat the Celtics last night, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Kelce returned to Cleveland, went to the Cavs game with his brother Travis. They sat courtside. The Cavs gave him a jersey, number 62, Kelce on the back, framed and all that. It was beautiful. And then the Celtics went on to choke against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Jason Kelce rooting on the Cavs to beat the Celtics helps the Sixers in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, he was in attendance in that game last night. So the Kelce magic continues to help Philly on the surface of play. In this case, the hardwood. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? Statland U will face its biggest test this season. I concur. Joe Whipp, still no closer for the Phillies. Yeah, that's not great. It's not great. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? I think the lineup will be fresher. Last year with Trey or JT coming off the World Baseball Classic kind of gassed them out. So it should be electric and Bryce a full season at first base. I concur. And Joe Whipp, still, to your point, no closer. Hopefully they won't need one. Hopefully they won't need one. No, that's Paulie Pom-Poms. Saying you hope the Phillies won't need a closer, that's Paulie Pom-Poms, and I apologize. But anyway, why Niners not great? Oh, thank you, man. Couldn't get into the chat. Smash that like button. Oh, the Farzy. Thank you, the Farzy. That's funny. Appreciate you. Why Niners wine? April! Morning, April. What's going on? But no chance of Xavier McKinney? Womp, womp. Robert Ross, Wikipedia is definitely not a credible source. Laugh my ass off, or laugh out loud. Anyone can change the info there. Yeah, it used to be a little easier to change the info. I thought you had to have a credible source. Hey, by the way, link it to this story. Link it to this story that backs up your claim that he plays for the. Hold on. The Guangdong Chicken Nuggets. Let me refresh it and see if it's still there. Pots and pans. No? All right, refreshing. Yep, still played for the Wong Dong Chicken Nuggets of the National Football League. Not great. Not great. I don't think it's happening. Look, I think Saquon Barkley goes back to the Giants. I don't think he wants to leave the Giants. I think he goes back to the Giants. Xavier McKinney, I think he goes back to the Giants. They didn't use the tag on him, as Dave pointed out. But one thing that is I find very interesting is that Dave does not think that James Bradberry is going to return to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know a lot of you, when you heard that, went, huh? Could it be? Up to 17 million? Dead cat. Good God, that's a huge number. I don't put it past Howie Roseman. This is Howie season. All right, we have Hurt season, we have Howie season. This is clearly Howie season. Howie's got to wave that magic wand. He's got to be that sorcerer that he could be, that wizard he could be when it comes to being able to manipulate the cap. With the cap number being up, going up in a huge way, yeah, you'll be allowed to have a little bit more wiggle room than we expected. It's a huge jump for the salary cap this year. Eagles are willing to spend. Eagles are willing to eat money. But good God, what a mistake. I mean, look, I was excited when you brought back Darius Slay. I was excited when they brought back James Bradberry. I did not see James Bradberry going in the tank as hard as he did this season. There's one thing. I'll grab the pom-poms again for Paulie pom-poms. There's one thing that I do look at with James Bradberry this year. It's not an excuse, but it's just an attempt to understand why it got so bad. It is not, let me repeat, it is not the reason James Bradberry was terrible this year. But if you were the agent of James Bradberry or you were James Bradberry, you're saying to yourself, hold on a second. Was I the problem on the defense or was the defense the problem with the defense? Because it wasn't just me. It was everybody. You want to have two different defensive play callers? You want to have a defensive play caller through most of the season that has only been a defensive coordinator one time in the NFL? And you want to blame me? You thought it was such a problem that at 10-3, you fired that defensive play caller, hired a new defensive play caller, brought in a new defensive play caller, would be the best way to say it, demoted the previous, and I'm the one that's terrible? Here's the no, look, that is not the reason. That might be the tiny percentage of it, but not the reason. Seeing James Bradberry give up on tackles in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, seeing him just get blow covers left and right throughout the season, that is not on Sean Desai. That is not on Matt Patricia. That's not on Howie Roseman. It's not on Jeffrey Lurie. It's not on Nick Sirianni. That's on James Bradberry. That's on James Bradberry. It was not all on that. I know people could look for excuses. That ain't one of them. So for me, it's not all because that everything was a blaze around him. It's that he got torched time and time again this season. And that's not on the side. That's not on a play caller. You can't play cornerback? It doesn't get any easier than cover that guy. He has a football. Tackle him now. That's why I look at James Bradberry beyond any other confusion that might have been out there on the football field throughout this season. Guys there with the ball, tackle him. I thought the other guy had him. That was right in front of you. Get him. That's my problem. That's my problem. That's my problem. Wikipedia not credible. April. No, it's still stupid easy to change Wikipedia. I've done it. I mean, we've all done. I mean, that's like, is that not a national pastime of ours now to just change Wikipedia? Check Wiki now, Farzy. What for James Bradberry? For Xavier McKinney. Let's go back to it. Okay. Thank you. All right. I doubt you'll be able to see this. Let's see if I can blow it up here like this. Yeah, you're not going to see it. All right. Wine Niners wine. I'm just going to credit you. Xavier McKinney is an American football safety who plays for the Farsies of the National Football League. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and a screen grab that. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Ridiculous. What's up, Ridiculous? Good morning. Bradberry is probably a Russian spy. Wouldn't rule it out. Wouldn't rule it out. Ooh, Sean Kilrain. That holding call in the Super Bowl is in his head. James Bradberry's head, that is. Maybe. I always try, and that's a great point, because I didn't put myself in that mindset, Sean. That's a great point. If you're James Bradbury, not only are you going, well, the whole defense sucked, but it is in your head probably that, hold on, I got called for that? We were so close to winning a Super Bowl, and I got called for that? Why Niners wine? You're welcome, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, look, the Eagles need I think at this point they have to move on from James Bradbury. And people made a big deal. We talked about this on the show. When Howie Roseman talked about James Bradbury, he said nothing, ladies and gentlemen. I know everyone was all up. Oh, Howie Roseman backs James Bradbury. James Bradbury is in our plans. Howie Roseman, James Bradbury is in our plans. He said nothing. You file that right under, he reported the news. It's very simple. Do I still have that clip in here? I think this is it. I'm going to see if I can play it for you guys again. He just reported the news. James Bradbury in your plans? He's under contract. That's all. Not, oh, we love James Bradbury. James Bradbury is so great. Everything James Bradbury is great. We feel he's going to have a bounce back year. We threw a lot at our defense this year. We confused things. There's bad communication. James Bradbury's in our play. What? No. He didn't go on this beautiful tangent about how great James Bradbury is. He just said what was true. I think this is the cut of Howie Roseman talking about.
I think he's an outside guy. I think when you look at this,
James Bradbury, inside or outside cornerback, how he sees him play, is what he had to say.
I think he's an outside guy. I think when you look at the skill set there, I think that that was one of the positions that as we got into the summer, we kind of knew we needed some depth there. We gave some guys opportunities to do it. I got to do a better job of bringing in more guys to be able to play that position. I think that's one area that kind of you felt like in August maybe we needed to add, so we tried some guys. But when you look at JB and his history and his success as an outside corner, to ask him to do something, which is really a different position, is hard.
And he remains part of your plans?
Yeah, he's under contract, part of our plans.
All right.
I know it was the last question. I know people love jumping on that last one. I know it was the last question, but he's part of our plans. That was beautiful. But he remains part of our. Yeah, totally. He's not part of the plans. I was really I'm not saying Keely Ringo is going to be a 10-time All-Pro or anything like that, but I liked what I saw. Even Eli Ricks, who for the most part did not impress this season, had his moments of impressive against Tyreek Hill in the Dolphins game. Good God, he was great playing in the slot. Absolutely phenomenal in that game. Showed a flash or two throughout the season. That being the biggest flash that he showed in the season. Seeing a guy like Keely Ringo get more opportunities, especially with other guys going on the mend. Darius Slay at the end of the season, they're going on the mend after he had his knee surgery. I want to continue to see those guys grow. I also want to see them add. I need proven commodities. Because look, here's the thing. Jalen Hurts has a MVP caliber season. Think if you finish second in the running up, you could say caliber, not MVP, but caliber season. And then this year was terrible. It wasn't all bad. I've mentioned it many times. Going into that San Francisco 49ers game, not only were the Eagles number one seed in the NFC, but they also had a MVP favorite at quarterback. MVP favorite at quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And then it all crashed and burned. You can't have 2 years like that in a row. And to be honest with you, I never felt like throughout the season that Jalen Hurts got back to that level of play that he was at the previous season. And granted, it was a pretty high level, but I was hoping that was going to be the status quo. Just a guy that was always going to be in the MVP conversation. This year, he got back in the MVP conversation and then got out of the MVP conversation. But for me, it's got to be about turnovers. You can't turn the football over the way Jalen Hurts did this football season. You can't do that. And Kellen Moore, as we know, is going to be airing the football out. He's going to put that precious pigskin in peril, and Jalen Hurts has to make the right reads, make a good throw, and capitalize on the opportunities that are going to be given to him. A little bit of a concern, but at least now you have a guy calling plays who's got 5 years of experience doing it. Not only has he got 5 years, he's got 5 good years, including being number one in the NFL in offense. That's impressive. That's a nice resume to bring to the table. Certainly better than I've never done this before, Brian Johnson. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening. So I'm hoping this is something that's going to help Jalen Hurts. But overall, on the defensive side of things is where I think the Eagles need to plug a lot of holes. Offensively, I think a lot of coordinators would love to come in and take this job. Defensively speaking, Vic Fangio wants to be close to his family. The geographical location of the Eagles helps them get the guy that they want, than Vic Fangio. That's not exactly a brag. It's not like Vic Fangio is coming in here because he, really wants to work with Nakobe Dean. You know what I'm saying? They're going to do things to make sure that this works. And I think one of the things they're going to do is add depth at the cornerback position. I think they're also going to bring in a safety of some kind of note, whether that's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, whether that's Xavier McKinney, who knows? But they're going to do things to bolster this defense. Hey, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My thanks to my friend Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Make sure you guys are following all things Dave Zangaro on his social media at DZangaro NBCS. Thanks for watching. Oh, wait, hold on. A couple more comments I want to try to get in here. Oh, it's very kind. Why Niners want to see. Joe Whip, that holding call still being in his head. Pathetic call. I thought he was calling Bradbury pathetic for a second, but no. But yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeah, go ahead and hit like, hit smash, subscribe to the Farzy Show YouTube channel, subscribe to Jacob Media, and all that fun stuff. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Break it all down. We also have a Pro Football Focus top 100 list. A couple of Eagles already being named on that list. We'll get into that tomorrow and so much more. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Be back with you tomorrow. See you.